Forum Borealis Paradigm Expansion.
Greetings from the north, and welcome to the forum and a brand new show on our Dissident series. Today with the networker and organizer Jeroen van Straaten. He is the founder and chairman of Global BEM, the popular breakthrough energy movement that, among other things, holds energy conferences, bringing together the brightest minds in the world to solve our future energy needs. In 2011, he also founded the Secret Space Program conferences that brings the real authorities in the fields of advanced technology, breakaway civilization analysis, deep security state criticism, and the black budget investigations to convene for a sober yet paradigm-blowing exploration of who really is the power players in our world. Jeroen has a background in business and marketing and is a natural talent in the field of event holding, gathering kindred spirits in innovative settings. Seeing that suppression of advanced energy technologies dates back to the early days of electricity and monopolized by the black world, he started this dual movement in order to bring forth research and revelation about the darkest corners of geopolitics, as well as to bring forth practical solutions and research into the breakthrough energy technologies that he considers the next natural step in our evolution, despite the brick wall from mainstream industry. Global BEM is in the process of putting forth a brilliant and foolproof process to release this energy technology that will completely revolutionize our world. The push to release advanced technology for the good of society is his primary goal, where every system of our culture will drastically improve when these technologies come online, creating a solution for the economic mess we're in. This may sound like a naive pipe dream, but Jeroen is no newbie and has worked within the alternative community for decades, and from his long experience and lessons have now cracked how to get this out in an efficient, protective, and successful way, as you will soon learn. We could have no better guest than him when presenting essential contemporary system critics. Welcome to the forum, Jeroen.
Happy to be here, Al. Thank you for inviting me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on, and I have to say, we just agreed off-air that I'd call you Jay.
Yeah, and that's not a problem, as long as people will recognize my face and the rest of the people can call me Jay.
Right. Well, it should be easy for me because Dutch, that's actually pretty close to Norwegian. You could say that Norwegian is a mix of German, Dutch, and English. If you mix those three languages, you come pretty close to Norwegian, actually. And I remember the first time I was in Holland. I found a Hollandic comic. It was Tintin or something like that. Mm-hmm. I could actually understand half of what was in the comic. So that's when I realized how close it was. And we have a name in Norwegian called Göran, which I think maybe is the closest. But it's such a... you pronounce it Jeroen?
Jeroen.
Jeroen.
Yes.
So to save me embarrassment and grief for the listeners when I don't pronounce this right, I'll just call you Jay henceforth.
No problem at all, Al.
Okay. So this series here that you're partaking in here, it could have been in the Breakaway series because you're such a spider in that area. It could have been the Free Energy series that we haven't launched yet because you're a big shot there too, but it's neither. This series is about noteworthy dissidents. And at the time of this recording, we've just had Daniel List on this series that you already know, of course, from Secret Space Program. And our listeners will know him also from his show Dark Journalist. But you're the perfect guy to have in this series because you're such a resource when it comes to two very subversive areas, which is uncovering the secret space program, breakaway civilization thing, and the free energy anti-gravity thing. So this makes for a huge show, and we can't even start to cover the bases, but we will have to take the first steps today. So, Jay, my first question begs itself. How did you wake up to these very exotic, subversive, obscure, unfortunately, subjects?
I think it started, I got a book from my brother, from Erich von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods. And at that time I was working in a coffee shop. And that's a coffee shop with a C where people get stoned.
Yes. Hang on. We have to explain this.
Okay.
Well, I guess most know. But if there's anyone out on the globe here who doesn't understand what he's talking about, in Holland, they do not discriminate between mild intoxications like alcohol and marijuana. So in Norway, it's the opposite. Here, if you want to buy alcohol, you have to go to state-sanctioned monopoly places. And if you smoke a joint, they will throw you in jail. So we're like Puritan. In Holland, you can actually go to shops and buy alcohol, and you can go to shops and buy marijuana. So these coffee shops are famous because everyone in Europe, when they were young, they went to Holland or Denmark to smoke joints because back then that was the only free place you could get access. Now, of course, it's a different story. It's getting legalized all over the world. But it is a cultural thing, those coffee shops. It's a very Hollandic phenomenon, I'd say.
Yeah, that's correct. And I just got out of school. I was 19 years old. I didn't know what to do with my life. And this opportunity for a young guy in Holland who used to go to coffee shop in his free time came along, so I jumped on it and I worked there for 2 years. But I wasn't intoxicated all the time there because actually I used it was a coffee shop that was very busy in the summer but very quiet in the winter, so I had a lot of time on my hands to read or to listen to interviews because there were not so many customers there.
Right.
So I got a book from my brother, and my brother and myself, we were, you could say science fiction fanatics, and especially Star Wars. I was, and I'm still a huge fan of Star Wars. But again, I got the book from Erich von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods. And I was hooked right away. So what I did back then, the internet was not online yet. So I went to my local library and I got all the books that I could find about UFOs, ancient alien stuff, conspiracies, you name it. So I actually read all the books they had. I started to buy my books. I became a subscriber of Coast to Coast. So this is now like 21 years ago, and it was not only Coast to Coast that I started to listen to. There were other podcast shows.
Right.
And at one moment, I thought by myself, okay, and the internet was already there at that point. I thought, okay, this has become entertainment for me. I was always waiting for the next interview or the next book to come out. And as a little kid, I already felt out of place in this society, and that there was something really wrong. It didn't match up with things that were going on in my mind, how things should be. So I thought, okay, if you're not happy with this world that you're living in, then you have to get off your butt and act upon it and try to make a better place. So I thought, okay, I would like to organize conferences and get in touch with the speakers that I heard on the interviews, and put them on the stage and record it and get the information out and play my part in the paradigm shift that is coming.
Okay, so let me make a friendly joke on your expense here. So Däniken plus Mariana. That makes perfect sense. That's how you got into these crazy areas.
Exactly.
Slacker Central 101. No, but you know, some could have thought maybe it was like, say, you were studying something similar. Let's say to be interested in, you know, anti-gravity or free energy. But you came into this like a private interest, not like it was related to something you were studying or working with, or.
No. I'm an average Joe. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about specific things.
I see.
I didn't have a technical education or something. I did business school. I can start my own business here in Holland. That's where I was trained for. And then, but yeah, I never had that ambition because I was so out of place. Because, I was different than most of my friends. I had a lot of friends. That was not a problem. I played soccer. I went out with my friends. I did all the things that normal boys do. But there was always something that I kept for myself, that I had a totally different view on things than most people. And I'm pretty mainstream, but in some areas I'm not. But I didn't have an education in that.
No, but it makes a lot of sense because what you've actually done is that you've just taken the consequences of who you are, where you are a guy who understands to bring, you know, people together. I mean, business is really psychology in a way. It's marketing, business. The word I'm looking for is grinder, an innovator, a pioneer, someone who starts things. Yeah, you know a little about everything. That's perfect. It's just taking the consequences of who you are. You're using your own resources correctly. Then you collect these specialists. So you become like this event holder, this spider. And I'm not very personal on air, or actually maybe I am, but I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to have like as little focus on myself as possible. But I have to admit one thing, and that's it sounds to me that we are kind of kindred spirits, because I'm kind of the same type, probably about the same generation too, and I too had that, what you said, so I can empathize. I too felt dissatisfied with the reality I was presented growing up. I had a lot of friends. I were a networker. I hold events, not in your area though. But when we started this forum thing, it's just another platform than what you do, kind of media outlet. You do it in the conference outlet. And that's why I think it dovetails, because we just in the beginning, and we're going to have a lot of series. And I'm pretty sure we're going to cover everything you guys are doing. So I'm so glad we connected, because we would be happy to contribute to bringing attention to your very noteworthy projects, and be like a podcast who propagates on that behalf, because that's what we need. All our people in the, what I would call and this is probably a little arrogant, but I have to be honest and keep it real. Everybody who are in the intelligent aspect of the alternative media have to come together somehow, be on the same team here, because we are up against a very huge machine, which is the mainstream media, which is the corporate propaganda outlet. So
and there was actually a second reason why I wanted to do this. I already realized pretty soon when I was interested in this that if we really want to make a change, if we like it or not, we need mainstream people on board.
Yes.
Because I don't think change actually is going to come only from the alternative community. That there's a notion in the alternative community that we're pretty big in numbers, and I don't see that at all. When you are in this alternative community and you're communicating all the time with alternative people, it looks like that the numbers are getting bigger and bigger, and they are getting bigger, but not in a way that I think this is going to make a significant change. So we need mainstream people to get on board. Now, one of the ways that has been lacking And I picked up on that because I went myself to other conferences and I listened to all the podcast shows you can imagine. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of hours I've listened, and the quality, the professionalism, most of the time is not there on the conferences and not on the podcasts. We need to come up with a mainstream product that is going to be accepted by those mainstream people, but with other content. Because if we like it or not, what the mainstream is doing, it's working. I think it's garbage, most of it, but it works. They know exactly what they're doing, and that it appeals to people. Now, there was a long time of a notion that the alternative community wanted to do it all differently. But then you're not going to reach a lot of people with that kind. So one of the things that we're trying to do on the conference is to record it in a professional way and with a certain format. And the website needs to look good in a certain way. Yeah. And I see us in the alternative community as ambassadors. We are the drivers, but we're not the ones who have the numbers to make a change. So, we try to do things differently than it has been done in the conference culture.
Indeed, and I have to say that your online solutions are very professional. Everybody who's been at either of your sites know what I mean. It's really fancy, it's really right up there. But I politely disagree when you say that the alternative community is small in numbers. The reason, let me explain. Okay. You're right in one sense. You're right when it comes to these areas we are dealing with. And that's because we are an alternative within the alternative, if you see what I mean. That's why we are just a segment within the alternative. But if you define, let's say, alternative media, the alternative community as everything that's non-corporate control, non-state and corporate mainstream, then we are huge, my friend. Look at, for instance, the Young Turks, which is a very mainstream show, really. But the Young Turks, I'm mentioning them because they are the biggest non-corporate alternative media news outlet out there. They're even bigger than Alex Jones' Infowars Prison Planet. And they are bigger than even though they're American, the Young Turks are, they are bigger than all the mainstream news outlets, even when you include their TV numbers, because the TV numbers are tricked. Take Fox News, for instance. Fox News have an average viewer age of I think it's 68 years. So they are dying off. You and me, Jay, we grew up with TV, right? You know how that was. We were hooked to that hypnosis machine. We scheduled our life after that machine. And in Norway, it was even worse because we had like just a couple of channels for a long time. We could get in Swedish and stuff like that. But now, everybody from 40 and downwards they're getting their information more and more from the internet. And it's so common not to have a television. So just be patient. They are dying off, the people who support the mainstream. And the mainstream, what we will see, I think, what we're going to see for the next 10, 20 years is that the mainstream will get a more and more heavy presence on the internet. They will try to face their propaganda from television onto internet. And they will try to rule the internet. And that's why they're trying, of course, to break net neutrality and all that. But they will also try through our methods. They will set up shows and solutions that will remind more and more of what alternative media does. But I don't think they will win that battle because we are here, we're present, we're taking over. And then you have like the alternative within the alternative, which is stuff like what you're doing. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And I see a couple of platforms that are doing really good stuff, and yours is one of them. Daniel List, one dark journalist, is one of them. From coast to coast, even when George Knapp is doing a show.
Yeah, I like it.
I think they're excellent. But yeah, there's just too much woo-woo and bullshit out there. And we like to program our conference that we keep that out as much as possible. Did we make some mistakes in the past with some speakers? Yes, we did. But most of our program, and that's from feedback that we get from people, is that they see actually a new generation, and that the information has being brought out in a different way, in a more way that can be taken serious.
Right.
Because we can talk all evening about getting saved by ET and the Dragon family is gonna put their money in, and the Whiteheads are winning. And,
right.
You know all those memes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not gonna get us anywhere. So let's stay grounded.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the people who have the same ideas as us, who also want to step away from that kind of crowd.
Right. Well, last thing to say about that is that I think what's important here to get to that solution you're mentioning is to apply the scientific method, because the scientific method, which you could say was, or actually originated with the ancient Pythagoreans and then came in the Renaissance, Francis Bacon, Isaac Newton, all those people. It's superb. But most people, they mistake the scientific method for the scientific institutions, the academia. But that's like the Vatican of science. And there's so much bad science going on, especially in the mainstream. You have like ideology running things. Mm-hmm. What, for instance, Michael Cremo and Graham Hancock refer to as the knowledge filtration. It's not a conspiracy. It's a human nature condition. Even scientists have emotions and biases and ideologists. And then you have the profit stuff. That's ruined so much real science, because you have like profit running what will be explored and researched. So I'm saying let's win back the scientific method within the alternative community, because science is just a method to find out what's objectively true. And if we apply that method on these, we should say maybe these horizon, these groundbreaking borderline areas, let's say antigravity.
Yes.
If that doesn't hold water by a genuine, sincere scientific approach, then it's most likely not, well, it may be true at some levels, but it's nothing practical we can relate to objectively, right? So my point is just, it's never gotten a chance. I mean, if you look at people who research real exotic stuff like telepathy, take Rupert Sheldrake, who's crushing the dogmas in science. He's using the scientific method and he's applying it on the scientific institution, and they don't hold water. He reveals them being just as fundamentalistic and religious as many. It's all about paradigm, right? So that's my point. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that's what you guys are doing. You're trying to be sincere explorers, and the people you put up as speakers are doing this. They are just not mainstream, and that's why they can do it, because they don't have to worry about their job, about their sponsors, and all that. And my follow-up question would be then, Jay, when you awoke into all these things and you started to realize that this is stuff you want to engage in, this is stuff you want to help put out to the world, who were the first serious speakers? I have respect for Deniken and all these youth, these first step discoverers, but even deeper than Deniken, at some point you were impressed by authors or researchers or speakers. So who were the first people who, when you started to realize, yeah, I want to help get this out there?
Because I've read all those UFO books in the beginning, and that was fascinating at that time. But pretty soon I had enough of all those alien encounters or lights in the sky, and those descriptions that were being told.
Right.
I was more into the geopolitics behind it, or the what, who, when, and how behind it. So I found my niche pretty quickly into the secret space program. That was really, that really got me. Richard Hoagland, Richard Dolan,
right.
Peter Levenda, of course, who was on your show, Timothy Good, even Jim Mars back then was really into the secret space program. And then later, a little bit later, I found out about another person that is on your show, and that is Joseph P. Farrell. Now, Joseph is really my favorite researcher because, he has such a different view on most things that I am interested in. And he can really tell it like a teacher. He really goes from point to point to point to really make clear what he means, and then just resonates with me.
Yeah, no, it's no secret that we are positively biased towards Jos, and I think the reason that I agree with your observation about Jos is that he's the definition of a Renaissance man, which means that you're an expert on several areas, and not just that, but you can tie it together and you can give it an own. He's a generalist in a way. He's an expert generalist, and that's what science needs, because the problem with mainstream science is that they are specializing more and more and more and more into completely different areas, where they have no understanding or respect of these other areas than what they're doing. So they are digging themselves into the trivia of reality, which is warranted in quantum physics, of course. But what we need is what science used to be in the really beginning, which is this overview thing. Because reality isn't just one aspect or two aspects. Reality is all aspects. And we lack a philosophical field theory, a general field theory, something to put together all aspects of reality to understand it. And they are failing that at the universities, in academia, in all mainstream solutions. So I guess it's left to renegades, researchers on the alternative community. So that's what you're doing in a way in the secret space conference of yours, and also in your free energy conferences that we're gonna get back to later, and you're doing it within those areas. You're collecting different approaches, different people, and we are doing the same when we're having series. We're having like this series on the Breakaway civilization. We're gonna have a series on free energy. We already started a series on antediluvian civilizations, and our goal is to tie all this together. And then Joseph is one of those few people who you could actually have as a guest on most of our series.
And another person that I highly have respect for is Catherine Austin Fitz. She's another person like Joseph who can really make connections and connect the dots between several. Of course, the economy is her main topic, but that's another person that I. And what I like about your show is that you actually approach it as a book, and I like to do the same. When you look at our program, and then I have the speakers in a certain order.
Right.
And this doesn't always work because of time issues or a speaker can't speak at a certain day. But I like to do it in a certain order so everybody has their own chapter.
Right.
And together they form a bigger picture. And the second speaker can dovetail on what the first speaker was also talking about. So and I can tell that you're doing the same with your show. It's not all over the board. It's there's a thought behind it.
Yeah, there's an overlying arch to it. And I must admit, I'm not that perceptive as you've been, so I didn't realize that's what you're doing. Now that you're telling me, I can totally see it. So kudos to you that you're following that path too. That's kudos. I'm impressed, man. Now we'll get more into details about the conference itself. So, okay, so you discovered these different speakers, but there's still a huge step from encountering this information and until sitting there with the cameras on. So how did your journey go from there until it was manifested? I can imagine you had a lot of challenges.
I was first, let me see, how does this come along? I met a guy from Belgium at a David Icke event. And we started to talk, and he said, yeah, I want to organize a conference in Belgium, and vaccines were the huge topic back then. This was like in 2011. So I said, okay, I'm willing to help out you on a voluntary basis. So actually, we organized that conference. I was helping him out, but yeah, I also did a lot of stuff. And we had a lot of names on there back then that became more famous later. We actually had...
Hang on, was this in Belgium?
This was in Brussels, yeah.
Okay.
And we had Edgar Mitchell on. We had Gerald Salanti on. We had Project Camelot on back then. I was a huge fan back then on Project Camelot. I'm not such a huge fan now anymore, but...
Do they even exist anymore?
Yeah, Carrie is still going on.
Okay, because I noticed Bill, he has a decent thing going on, some kind of forum thing. But I got that they split at some point. But never mind. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, we had a good program over there, but then I decided to do it for myself, especially on the secret space program.
Because the subject on the first conference was what, vaccines?
It was across the board.
We just different stuff. Okay.
Yeah, another huge topic, and I had two speakers on that. Was if the system is gonna collapse, what are you gonna do for yourself? Yeah. How are you gonna prepare? So that was Matthew Stein, and some names I forgot them, but
but I get it.
Yeah, I decided, okay, I want to do this, but only for the secret space program. And I met another guy at that conference who did audio video for his Matrix job. So I said, okay, are you willing to help me out? And the Secret Space Program conference was born with the two of us. And
so when was this?
This was the first Secret Space was in 2012. But what I also realized at that conference is, it's sharing information, but it's not actually come up with solutions. And that's why I founded Global BEM, Breakthrough Energy Movement, because I really see a solution in that in that topic in breakthrough energy.
Yeah, that's a brilliant bridge to the mainstream.
Yeah,
because you can go through that. There's a lot of attention and interest in finding alternative energy sources right now. So there's positive bias towards that, at least in liberal countries like Norway, where the state is actually sponsoring anything which is not oil and gas. But the free energy stuff, the unified field stuff, is not vetted yet. It's not clean in the mainstream alternative energy circles. There are some who knows about it, but they don't dare to mention it in mainstream environmental organizations and stuff too much. But it can be if you keep doing that work. So yeah.
And I have to, I wouldn't say correct you, but to suggest to you something.
Yep.
We need to step away from the term free energy.
Right.
It's really a corrupt term. People are being put off by it.
Okay, is 0 point better, or what's the best word for it?
There's more than one term that I think is better than free energy. The one that we use is breakthrough energy.
Okay, but that's kind of broader, right? It's not just 0 point stuff.
No. Because we like to stay away from solar and wind and battery technology. We're more into the exotics technologies.
What about this new car that I saw somewhere was it in Germany? Somewhere in Europe, there's a new car now. It's kind of going on water. It's not a regular hydrogen car. It's going actually on water, but it's not Meyer's technology. No, not Stanley Meyer. It's not his solution. It's something else. The technology is exotic and interesting. Nobody has done that. Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
I think I saw it coming along. I haven't been too deep in that one particular.
But could that be a part of it if what I'm saying is real?
Yeah. It's because one of the terms is also 0 point, but that's also a certain portion of the whole field, because you also have over unity, and over unity is not the same as 0 point. There's a distinction there.
Yeah, so it's too limited to say 0 point.
Yeah, that's why we use the term breakthrough energy, because you can have a different. It's like an umbrella kind of thing. To come back to where we make the distinction with solar and wind, I think it's a diversion. It is so promoted by the cabal and by the powers that be, and I see it more as a stepping stone technology. It's something that is in between. In 10 or 20 or 30 years, nobody's going to talk about solar and wind energy anymore, because we have something better than that. Because what most people forget about solar and wind, is it better than fossil fuels? Yes, it is. So in that way, I support it. But is it really a sustainable technology if you look at the resources that go into those wind farms and also in creating solar panels? There's, at least I can't find it, there are no YouTube clips or videos to be found on the internet, as I'm aware, that they actually show you how they create those solar panels. There are hundreds of videos how you can put it together. But the chemical process, how those solar panels are made, it's not out there because it's not sustainable. It's chemical. Things are still being burned. And the amount of research that go in there, if we want to transform this world into a world that runs on solar and wind, it's not sustainable at all.
Okay, I understand what you're saying here. By the way, we're going to adopt your term here. I love it. Breakthrough energy. Yes, that can appeal to everyone. So I just made an executive decision here. We're going to change our series name, because we haven't launched it yet, to Breakthrough Energy, not Free Energy. So I'm on board. So thank you for that. But now I want to disagree a little with you, because if you look at the sanctioned solutions within solar and wind, it's just scraps they're throwing to us. People are pushing to get us off fossil fuel and nuclear, and they realize it, the powers that be, the industry, the states, they realize this, and in some cases they're even positive to it. So what they do is that they throw to us these half-assed solutions, which isn't sustainable, and precisely that's why they allow electrical cars, solar and wind solutions, because they know it's not a threat to the mainstream energy. But consider this. They've had solutions for efficient cars for decades, but they rot on shelves. They end up in closed stores. They don't want this to get out. Like these water cars, we see a history here where they either buy off the inventions, they hijacked it through patent offices, or they threaten, or even in some instances, naive inventors, they meet an untimely death. These inventors, they don't even have to know that there are inventors who've made similar or the same things in the past, because these are just brilliant nerds, and they have no understanding of marketing necessarily. So they don't necessarily know how to get it out there and manufacture it and mainstream it, or they don't know how dangerous it is. There are so many energy solutions for humanity if you had like an unrestricted, free exploration. So it's bound to be discovered and discovered again by different people in different places in different times. Starting with Tesla, or even before, like we will prove in other series where we explore the ancient past. So they discover these things, but they have no idea necessarily, these geniuses, how to get it out, because they're not geniuses in marketing or in geopolitics or anything. And that's how it gets picked up and stored away. Now, wind I'm against, because it kills birds and all that stuff. But take solar. There are solutions that could be sustainable. You can actually spray. There's a company in America. You can spray on windows and everything. You could do it on all the areas where there's sun all the time. And I remember Richard Hoagland mentioned a very effective solar invention. But nobody is financing these effective things, even in should we say, mainstream solutions as solar and electric cars. There could be a sustainability, but those are not supported. And when you come to cars, and we'll have programs proving this, they try deliberately to crush independent car manufacturers, and they sponsor the mainstream manufacturers. And then you have like Elon Musk, who actually managed to get through with his Tesla thing, even though he was not mainstream, but he managed it because he had money and he had intelligence. He knew how these things worked. But even Tesla is challenged. And in many states in America, they try to crush Tesla. They make laws so that you can't actually they don't get a fair chance. It's not free competition in these areas. So what we need to understand, people, is that there is a biased system. It's because the system is rigged. You see what I mean?
I totally agree with what you just said, and that's why I propose a different solution that has been done for all these decades, because it's not working. It's not working that a lone wolf scientist or researcher who has a technology and who tries to get this to market. It's not working. It's not even working when a company gets behind it and invests a lot of money. It's not working. Now, the things that are working, like an Elon Musk, again, I think, yes, it is because he had money and intelligence and he had a vision, but he's also being allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Now, my proposition would be, and we actually have a presentation about that on our conference. We are working on a crowdfund model. Now, crowdfund, of course, has been done also in the breakthrough energy scene. Money was coming in, and then they tried to support one researcher, and in the end, it never goes anywhere. What we propose is that you have to couple this crowdfund onto a business plan and it is a holistic business plan from A to Z, and you already need to work it out up front. How are we going to get a product that is being backed by grassroots people through the crowdfunds? How we're going to put this into the market, and you're already going to lay it out to the people. And you're going to tell your plan, okay, this is what we're going to do. We need your support, because one aspect that has been overlooked a lot of times in this breakthrough energy scene is consciousness itself. The consciousness, when a researcher has his eureka moment and he builds a machine and he reaches out to a company or to somebody with money, maybe the consciousness is there, but it's not big enough. I truly believe that consciousness also works in numbers. And of course, breakthroughs can be being put out by people alone. But if you're talking about the next big thing, this is how I call it. When these technologies come into the market, this is going to be bigger than the internet. It is really like reinventing the wheel or fire. It's going to be that big. It has implications on every daily aspect of life when these technologies come to market. So you need a bigger plan than, okay, we got a technology and we want to bring it to market. No, you need a marketing team. You need a face for the campaign. But I really believe that it can be done by a crowdfund. Now the kicker is that you need to create a buzz that is going to be picked up by mainstream. Here comes mainstream again. So. And I can lay it out a little bit in a nutshell what we're working on the background. We're actually working on 3 different crowdfunds, and they're all interconnected with each other. There are 3 different crowdfunds, but they're all interconnected. Now the first crowdfund, because that is another part that is lacking, is going to sustain a standard and protocol vision that Joel Garman, one of our speakers in the past, has. What a lot of people don't understand is that if you want to attract business people who are going to put the money on the table for your technology, it needs to be proven.
Yeah.
Those people need to know if this is the real deal. Now, this is not the case for the breakthrough energy scene. People come up with technologies. They don't know how to measure it. It's actually not what they think it is. So what we're proposing is that we're going to have a standard and protocols being set up. And that's for different technologies. People can use those standards and protocols to see if they actually have something. Now, if they live up to those standards and protocols, then a vetting team can go to those people and apply those standards and protocols again.
Right.
Now, then a stamp of approval can be given to those inventors. And then other people can see, okay, this stamp of approval is there, the standards and protocols are in place, so this is the real deal, and we can get behind it. This is a big part. This is a boring part for a lot of people, but it's a very important part that needs to be established in this breakthrough energy scene, because you have it in all kinds of different business models around the world for other things. You name it, cars or there are standards and protocols in place there that people have to follow. For security reasons, is it safe? Is it doing what it's promising? All those kind of things.
So some kind of skilled quality control. Like instead of a company or a state making a board of certifications, it's like the people themselves coming together and vetting each other's discoveries and also contributing to understanding all the aspects better, practically speaking, of these inventions. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And what's going to happen is you got mainstream science on the one hand, who says these technologies can't be true because science tells us by the
the paradigm tells us, yes.
Yeah, the second law of thermodynamics and those kind of laws are telling us that this can't be a reality. Now, if there has been a board of standards and protocols and they can prove that these technologies are the real deal, then there will be more and more people in this field are going to sign off on this.
Yeah.
And it's going to spread like an old stain. And more scientists, because they see this list are getting bigger and bigger and bigger of people in their field who can actually sign off on this, because it can be proven that it's real.
Yeah, not only that people sanction it, like authority or like an awareness or like a paradigm shift, but also to have working prototypes. Because, you can't deny what people can see and touch, right? So working prototypes is essential to even start contemplating manufacturing it. So what's your ideas? You said there were 3 crowdfundings. You mentioned the first one.
And it's very funny that you mentioned the car already a couple of times, because the second crowdfund that we're going to put out, that first crowdfund is not going to need a lot of money. This can be established for let's say $80,000 or less.
Right.
So we can come up with this money within our own breakthrough energy community. Now the second campaign, crowdfund campaign, needs a little bit more money. We're really gonna reach out to the crowdfund community. Now the crowdfund community, if they pick something up because it is promoted by the crowdfund platform itself, because they like your idea, it's cutting edge, it's something that people really would like as a solution, like that you can drive your car from the west to the east coast in the States without refueling, then you can connect with that crowd. Now, if that crowd gets behind an idea that we have, and we have seen this before, there has been a crowdfund campaign related to this to rebuild the Tesla Wardenclyffe Center. And that campaign generated 1.3 million. So, people are interested in this. Now, what we're proposing in that second crowdfund is that, we got the standards and protocols in place now. What we would like to do is we're going to create a campaign that a car is going to drive from the west to the east coast in the States. And,
wow.
And this is going to be on the breakthrough energy technology. So we're also going to put out a call to all those inventors that if you have a technology out there that we can put in a car and that can live up to the standards and protocols that we have, we are willing to adapt your technology in this car. We're going to take care of you financially, because I really believe in the model that not everything should be for free. That is another misconception that is being taught in the alternative community. We just like to do it fair. So we're not going to work with people who want $1 million or a couple of $1 million. It has to be reasonable. But now,
but not hyper commercialized, of course.
No. Because this is going to be grassroots backed.
Yeah.
So this is not going to be for one company, but that comes in the third crowdfund. The second one is really to create that buzz. Because if you can drive a car from the west to the east coast, then it's up to a marketing team to get this into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And they will pick up on this if you make a spectacle out of this.
Of course.
If you can really show that this car is not being refueled, and like especially in every state, you're going to invite a different speaker or somebody that is important to the community to drive that car.
Right.
And people who donated to the crowdfund campaign can actually sit in the car for an hour or 2 hours and have a conversation with the driver, one of the important people.
And of course, everything being put out on the internet, filmed and documented. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be live streamed. You need to attach catering that is sustainable, organic. So every stop that we're going to have in a state, we're going to have a press conference, and there's going to be catering that we think that's how catering should be.
You're going into the belly of the beast. You're going to do this in America?
Yes, because I think America is really the sleeping giant. America is very polarized. You've got the dumbed down kids on the one side, but on the other side,
yeah, I see what you mean. I totally agree with you. In America right now, there is a potential for the machine is actually faltering. It's about to come down, I think. You can see this politically too.
Exactly.
Both of the mainstream political parties have non-mainstream candidates that are subversive, that will change the system, like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And you also have the libertarian factions with Paul. That's been a revolution going on for a long time. So yeah, there are consciousness. Like Leonard Cohen says, America, the land of the best and the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's brilliant. I agree with you. But it's dangerous too. That's also where they are best equipped to try to crush something like that.
Yeah, but I truly believe that the spiritual protection is the best one. And I'm not a practitioner in meditation or things like that. But my best protection until now is that you shouldn't go into the fear mode.
No, I agree.
And change has to come. I've got a 1-year-old, and I just don't want her to grow up in the society that we live in, and and until the man with the hammer comes, until that moment, I'm just gonna do my thing, what feels good, and I think what should be done. And, and that's why I like the crowdfund campaign, because that is the mechanism that a lot of people get on board, and the consciousness for the idea is growing and growing and growing, and that is a much better strategy than a lone inventor or a company that is going to bring this technology into the marketplace, because I don't really see that happening. They're not going to allow that.
No.
But if there's a lot of eyes on an idea and it's growing, then I really think that that it's going to succeed, because it's the next step in evolution.
Yeah, I have to express how impressed I am with your realizations, because if you're making this into a crowd effort, you're just a facilitator. The strategy you're making is to make yourself superfluous, because if they took you down, it doesn't matter. It would go on. It wouldn't change anything, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a crowd thing. It's different people. They would have to kill off millions of people if they would have to stop it the old, primitive, brutal way. And another thing is that many insiders are just as trapped in the system as we are. And I'm pretty sure that even though, and I'm convinced you are on their radar big time because of those two projects, but I'm pretty convinced that all dissidents actually have a lot of sympathy too. Because there is a guy right now, we could call him an insider, who is at your age, who has another 1-year-old, and he too wants a future. So many people are realizing, also in the inside, that this isn't sustainable, but there's little to nothing individuals can do. But stuff like you're doing is possible to pull off.
Yeah, and I've got more and more. I wouldn't say compassion, but I think I understand more and more why they took this route, why all the suppression and why all the secrecy, and that really ties into the secret space program and the decisions that were made in 47. I don't see it as black as white anymore as I used to, and in bad and good guys, and we are the good guys and they are the bad guys who are putting us through this shit. But I don't see it like that anymore. But besides that, I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm not afraid that they're gonna take me out. Yeah, and this just needs to be done. And I don't see that I'm going to do that by myself. No, it's going to be a group effort.
Yeah, and it's not going to be dependent on certain individual, right?
No. And to get back to round that freeway crowdfund off. So the second one is really going to be the media spectacle. To prove that this is a reality and that we can drive a car from the west to the east coast. Yeah. Now, about that time, when this hits mainstream news, then you can really activate the masses. And that's where comes crowdfund number 3 into place. Because then we're going to ask the general public to back us, because we want to put this technology on the marketplace, and we don't want to do that through one company. No, if we really want to make a paradigm shift, we really need a Manhattan Project on steroids, because we don't have another 10 or 20 years to turn this around. So we need a lot of companies on board, we need a lot of governments on board, and we need a lot of people on board who are going to tell those governments and those companies, this is a reality. We want this technology. The money is here because we're backing it also to get this off the ground. And so part 3 is really the business plan behind it, and this needs to be a holistic business plan. That keeps, for instance, one of the aspects of this business plan that we're proposing is that from every unit that is going to be sold in the future, a portion of that unit, sales needs to be put into a fund that is going to be used for people who can't afford to buy a unit. Right. Because what I see happening, even when the powers that be is going to allow one of these technologies come into the market from one company, it's only going to be the people who can afford it, who can buy a unit like that or a car like that, and we want a solution across the board for everybody. Yeah. So and we've got the money, but a portion of that money needs to go somewhere else, and that's just one of the things that we think should be implemented in that holistic business plan.
Right. There's so many things I want to pick up on what you've said, but I promise you I'm not going to lose track of where we are in the flow of the subject, so we're going to get to your third crowdfunding too. But okay. I would just want to say or ask right now, for instance, when you mentioned this brilliant idea of how you're doing it with crowdfunding, now could you also take a portion of the fund for every item sold, whether we're talking about cars or because this will, when it's breakthrough, it will, like you said, be on all aspects of society, not just cars. So there will be millions and millions upon dollars. You give huge profit. But could you take, let's say, derail some of the funds to repay crowdfunders? Instead, they become investors. Not for profit, but like say, okay, we collected millions of dollars to get through all these crowdfundings. Now money is generated from this because we got the breakthrough. Then they could get it back. And in a way, then you say that, I think it would be an easier incentive if there's no guarantees, but at least it's like, okay, I'm a poor student, but I'll donate $500 and I know that it may ensure my future. And I may even get the money back. And then it's free. Then we've actually saved the future. But what do you think? Is that possible?
That is possible. That is a different view on crowdfund. But what I would like to see is, because one of the aspects of people who support crowdfunds is that they want a product back. They don't want money back.
Okay.
That's not the incentive, but
no, of course.
Yeah. What I think would help that much more people also will have a trust in a crowdfund campaign, because the situation now is that people donate to a crowdfund campaign, and eventually they see the end product coming or not. The way to get that product out, it's still a big mystery. And especially financially, what I hope is that some WizKid is listening to this podcast or is going to see our presentation on the conference and is going to invent an app that allows you into the bank account of the crowdfund campaign, and that you can actually see what's happening with the money. You can't take money out. You can only put money in, but you can log into that bank account and see exactly what's happening with that money. And if you can, to make that app in a way that you can even click on the expenses and go a little bit deeper, if you would like that, to see which companies we were dealing with. Because again, I think we should only deal with companies who have the same view as us. Who have the same morals and the same standards as us.
Yeah, you can't trust anyone else. So yeah.
No, so we want to do business with companies who get it. This new way of dealing with stuff. So I think that app, and I know 9 of the 10 people are not interested in that app, but it is another aspect that you show people this is transparent. If you really want to dig further into it, how we do business and how this product really comes to market, then this is the way, one of the ways. And I think that should be a next step in the evolution of crowdfunding. It needs to be even more transparent than it is now. And I'm sure that people are willing to put up money on the table and they don't want to even want to have it back, as long as these technologies come out and they're going to be available for everybody.
Right. So, and this is a global project, right? You're not just focusing on America or Europe. You're trying to get everybody in here, not just on the crowdfunding side, but also on the brains side, that inventors, researchers. It's a global thing, right?
Yeah, we're also in the presentation, we're really going to put out a call of the certain people we need on the team to make this happen. So you need your marketing people, you need your technicians on board, you need people who know everything about cars, you need people who know everything about electronics. We need catering people on board, we need PR people on board. Now I don't mind where those people come from. when they have their same views as us and they're vetted. And I don't mind if they're coming from China, Russia, or whatever. So it's going to be a global thing.
Right. No, I'm totally behind you, because if you get to do this thing, drive something from coast to coast, it doesn't even matter if the mainstream is picking this up. If there's enough, that a shift, any revolution, and you can study history, this goes for political revolutions, it goes for economic, for technology, for psychology, any big change. Always, first of all, it always comes from below. It never comes from above. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, you don't need like 51% to make the shift. All history shows you. And this is understandable for people who study stuff like quantum physics, consciousness, morphogenetic fields, all that stuff. You actually only need about 10 to 15% to make that change on any area, especially awareness. So let's say then that enough people is on board on this, and you're driving this car. If still this couldn't be manufactured, if you didn't get to the next step of selling this to people who wanted it, it would be like a world revolution, because as soon as mainstream people pick up on, wow, this is possible, they can go to the internet and see for themselves. They don't have to listen to the debunkers who try to distract us with all sorts of ideological and faith-based.
Yeah, and one of the aspects that we want to do is that we're going to drive that car past universities on the route.
And, brilliant.
And those are the places that we're going to have our press conference, and we already have some ambassadors in place in those universities who already told all the university students, hey, there's a car coming tomorrow here. Right. On the not on the campus, because that won't be allowed, of course, but just outside the campus. And you should check it out, because this is amazing. This car drives from the west to the east coast without refueling. Now, I can bet that there's a lot of university kids who are going to take a look, and they're going to be on their social media and on their Twitter and on their Facebook, and they're going to say, hey, what I saw today is going to be a revolution, because I really truly believe that young people have to pick this up on the universities and to get the ball rolling. And maybe some people think, hey, you shouldn't tell everything about this plan, but also about that, I've got a different view.
Yeah, and we'll explore that in part 2, the more philosophical aspect. So you don't have to explain that right now. Okay. Let's stay on the practical note. But of course, because this is your model, we need to build big coalitions. So what about getting on board also, sending an invite when you're ready? I mean, what about inviting also different environmental organizations, maybe progressive politicians, stuff like that, just to further build a coalition? Is that possible too?
The one coalition that I would really love to see, and that hasn't happened yet, is the one with the anti-nuclear people. Yeah. Because this is a solution, not only that we're going to have a different energy source, so we don't need nuclear anymore, but what I understand from several inventors is that these certain machines with these properties have the effect that you can clean up a nuclear waste with these technologies. So it works both ways. Now, if we can get a couple of their people on board who can reach their network, that's one of the coalitions that I would like to see.
Yeah, that's very sensible. Since we are at the energy part now, so let's just continue to explore that. There will be many challenges for you, of course, further. But what about the reception, by the way? I don't know how long you've come in this progress. Actually, just continue explaining us. What's the third crowdfunding you're planning?
So actually, the third crowdfund. Okay, we've got the car now with the technology inside. Now to bring this car into production, that's a whole different ballgame. And that will cost millions and millions and millions, a couple of $100 million even. Yes,
but but if you succeed in step 2, you don't need a crowdfunding for manufacturation, because people will line up as investors. You can't stop it at that point. Even commercial mainstream companies will try.
Yeah, but then that is true. But I would rather have, let's say, 500 million people backing this than 10 companies who are going to put each 50 million on the table.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the consciousness behind it that will make it a success. So we're not looking for big investors or big companies to jump on board. They're welcome at a later stage, because when we are ready to take this into production, companies can buy a license.
Right, smart.
And again, there's going to be a mechanism in that license that they have to stand up to certain standards and protocols, those companies.
Right.
And again, a portion of those funds that are going to be generated by those companies are going to be put in a fund to help the people in India or in Africa. So yes, I still think that third crowdfund is necessary. And about that time that third crowdfund is running, I also hope then that there's really going to be a movement stepping up, because the last aspect of this is that there needs to be a movement who's going to say to the governments around the world, we know this is a reality and you have to support this.
Exactly.
And if you're not supporting this, we're going to go out into the streets and you have to move over until the next generation of politicians is there who will get it.
Yeah, and they don't even need to go to the streets, because as soon as they pick up on politicians stopping this, not fighting for this, and they know it's real, they will vote them out of office where they can vote them out of office. I know there's a lot of elusive democracies. There's voting machines and all that stuff, and we're going to have programs on that too. But no, I see what you mean. At this point, if you get to point 3, it will go by itself. I'm so convinced. There's no stopping it at point 3. You've thought through this. You're so right in what you're saying. If you left point 3 up to the companies, there's no guarantee what will happen next. They will always find a way to make something worse out of. No, you can't trust them.
No,
So if you are allowed to get through these stages, it's waterproof.
It only needs a small group of dedicated people. And some funds behind it, because these people can't do this besides their matrix jobs. They need to be funded so they can do this 24/7. And then I'm convinced that a group of 50 people can really get this going.
No, that's so excellent. So now that you explained the model, we can also already now say that you're going to have a very important conference pretty soon, in a little over a month from this recording, probably a couple of weeks from this is out there to everyone. So it won't be enough time for us to generate enough attention in itself, but fortunately you have many channels that you're going through. So tell us about this conference now so people can know what's going on here.
Okay, the conference is going to be May 28th and May 29th. It's going to be in Bastrop, Texas.
Same place as Space Conference?
And that's like 25 minutes from Austin Airport. So, and it's pretty close to Houston and to San Antonio and even to Dallas. So it's pretty centralized to those cities. It's going to be 2 days, 5 speakers each on one day. We invited the inventor community to come to show their technology on booths. And the program is really like a mixed bag. There are conferences on these topics who really delve into the technology side of things. But we really bring a program for the layman. And let's talk about the implications that these technologies are going to bring for everybody in their daily life. So we're going to touch upon on the economic sides, on the environment.
So you're going to talk about some of the stuff we've already talked about, explaining the project.
Yeah, and we also... we're going to explain the project. We're going to have a speaker who's going to lay out how we see a breakthrough energy company is going to be formed in the future. What's that kind of a company? We're also going to touch upon the technology side. We've got Jeffrey Miller, and he's really the best kept secret, I think, of most inventors. He's out there for 30 years, and he has rebuilt a lot of inventions from others. We're going to have Jason Fabelli. He's an expert on magnets. Magnets are going to play an important role in the future.
Yeah.
On a lot of different aspects. We're also going to talk a little bit about the suppression side. Ruben Langdon is going to delve into that. And what I should mention is, like, one day ago we added Marco Roden and Randy Powell to the program. And I think that's really a treat for everybody who's interested in this in these topics.
You ought to explain who these are. Not even I know who all these names are. So who are the two other guys you said?
Marco Roden, he came up, he discovered what they call, let me see.
But these are inventors and researchers.
Yes. He came up with a different mathematical. If you say Marco Roden, you're actually saying vortex-based mathematics, and it's a different way of explaining how the universe works. And this has all to do with breakthrough energy technologies because they work in a different way than mainstream science tells us. And in this breakthrough energy scene, Marco Roden is really a living legend.
Right.
You can call him like that. He's really brilliant, and Randy Powell took his work a step further, and they're going to do a duo presentation. So they're going to be both on stage. They're friends from each other, and they really complement each other. So I'm really looking forward to their presentation.
No, this just goes to show how little I know about this topic. I mean, I got a lot of compliments from listeners who says that they think it's refreshing that a host knows what he's talking about for change. Now, I'm not claiming I know what I'm talking about, but I will admit I know what I'm talking about on certain topics. But breakthrough energy is not, it's not my cup of tea. Just using the word free energy shows you how naive I am. But nevertheless, I have the ambition of trying to facilitate good programs on breakthrough energy, the technology, the philosophy, all that stuff. So that's why I want to piggyback on you here, because
can I make one more comment to back you why you're not so interested in this yet?
No.
It's really dualistic. Again, what I said, this is going to be the next big thing. And 9 of the 10 people don't know anything about this. So it's really something that, it's so strange for me that this is a solution for all the problems that we're having. But actually nobody knows about it yet. It's bizarre.
Isn't that the answer? The reason people don't know about this is because it will change everything upside down? I think it's logical, actually.
History shows us that it always goes like this.
Yeah. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and eventually the breakthrough comes. But no, I was just trying to fish for names here, because we need, if we're going to make a series, we have to have on serious people who can explain the alternative scientific models and all that stuff. And so you mentioned Joel Garmon, you mentioned Jeffrey Miller, but could you drop some names from your awareness of what's going on and who's out there right now? Who would be good people to have on different aspects of breakthrough energy?
I think Murray King is a very good researcher on hydro and plasma. Mm-hmm. If you want a lady who is really a dictionary on this topic and knows everybody, have met everybody, she's really the godmother of the breakthrough energy scene. Cool. She's called Jean Manning.
Jean Manning, okay.
Yeah, she's got a book out a couple of years ago together with Joel Garmon that I really highly recommend. And that book is called Breakthrough Power. And I really see this as the Bible for our layman people to get a better understanding about this topic. It is written in a way that everybody can understand it, what these technology is going to mean. And like I said, Jean knows everybody, and everybody in this Breakthrough Energy scene knows Jean. She's a wonderful lady.
Okay.
Some other names, let me see. Dr. Tom Falone is a very credible researcher. He really touches upon the health side application of these technologies. He can tell you a lot about the patent office, what is going on there. He used to work there, how the suppression works over there at the patent office.
Interesting. Yeah, we need to have him on. That's all those people you mentioned we have to have on. Yeah.
Basically, if you go to our YouTube channel from Global BEM, we almost have now like 60 presentations on there.
Okay.
On all ways of topics that connect with this topic. So
so I can pick and choose from there.
Yeah, and I can always tell you more about certain speakers, or if you have a certain aspect of this breakthrough energy scene that you want to handle, I can come up with a couple of names.
Cool. And now you heard that, folks, what you said. Go to his website, but could you pronounce it very clearly?
The website is globalbem.com, and BEM is spelled B-E-M. And,
Global BEM in one word, okay, .com.
Yeah, .com, and BEM stands for Breakthrough Energy Movement. If you go on our website, we're actually transitioning between two websites, so the presentations are not on that website itself. They will be in the near future. But if you click on the YouTube icon, it will take you to our YouTube channel.
Okay, good. You heard that, people. This topic is so huge that we could probably have a 10-hour program. Now, we both got lives, Jay, so I suggest that we take a short break now.
Okay.
And when we come back, we will really go into depths to other aspects of what we've already talked about, both in the field of breakthrough energy and breakaway civilization.
All of our files are free and will remain free. If you like the show, you can show support by donating $1 to help with expenses. Just use the PayPal link on our website, YouTube channel, or Facebook page. Thanks.
Welcome back to part 2 of this interesting program we have today with Jeroen van Straaten.
Hi there.
Was that close enough, Jay?
Close enough for me, Al.
Right. And we're talking about his extremely interesting projects, of course, the secret space program, Breakaway Civilization conferences, and the even more important, I'd say, project, which is the Global Energy Movement. Although those two go hand in hand, because I take it, Jay, that you kind of went to the free energy area, or I should call it, of course, breakthrough energy area, from learning about your studies in UFOs and the secret space program. You kind of realized that, hey, if these things are physical objects and they're coming to our world, obviously they're not using fossil fuel.
No, not at all.
Is that the transition over to the energy from the UFO area?
Yeah. If you want to put it in a nutshell, then 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
And, it was pretty clear to me that the distance was too big to come with a fossil fuel engine here, so they're using something else. And that application can be used in breakthrough energy applications. They go hand in hand.
This is part 2, and in part 2 we have a license to speculate wildly. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about we could say, the philosophy behind this phenomenon. But let me ask you, before we go to the exciting area, a couple of more practical questions about your conference and these things.
Okay.
First of all, I have to ask, why are you choosing Texas so many times? You know, that's the heart of the oil mafia. We all know what happened to JFK.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's a good place in terms of interest from the audience, or what's the reason for going to Texas?
I was looking for a city that was located with some other big cities around. And Bastrop, Texas is like 25 minutes from Austin Airport. And Austin is, it's close to Houston. It's close to San Antonio. It's pretty close to Dallas. So it was, I chose for a central location, and I'm never worried in what kind of part of country we are considering black op people or anything like that. I even think that they're happy with conferences like us, because it's like data mining for them, and they can see how far the general public is. So I'm not worried at all that they are not happy with us and they're going to shut things down. And anyway, I just do my best. I do what I can, and I put the information out. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, I might as well ask you now then one of the more speculative or philosophical questions, because it's related to what you just said. And that is, you said in part one that you've left the old simple paradigm of bad guys, good guys.
Yes.
And obviously we are all human, and I don't know, the question of evil, I mean, it's a subjective definition, and I'm pretty sure most people think of themselves as good. I think even Hitler thought he did good stuff. So I get that, but still, you and me, we are not the ones taking decisions to destroy nature,
No.
keep people dumbed down, etc. So would you mind elaborating a little on your current view on how, these people think? I mean, how come you have more empathy now and with their situation and stuff? What do you think is going on there?
I first want to give a couple of disclaimers. The first one is that what I think today can be different tomorrow. And I have a totally different view than a couple of years ago. And I'm open to that. I'm not one of those people who are going to stick to my ideas and gonna defend them all the time, because we're actually all guessing at some level what is going on. Some things we know for certain out of the documents and some reliable testimony, but what goes on at the highest levels concerning the secret space program and control on this planet, we're all guessing. So I'm also guessing. So nothing is written in stone what I say. The other disclaimer that I want to say is, what did I want to say?
Well, it's regarding good guys, bad guys,
Yes.
regarding I mean, one thing you said that it makes sense is that they want to monitor where we're at.
Yeah.
What is the leading minds in this area?
Yeah, my view on the whole universe even is that I believe in infinity. And you see that everywhere in nature, also in your personal lives. There's so many options that is actually infinite. So I don't believe in the good and bad polarizing that people do a lot. Even what we consider bad for that person can be good, or they can justify it. And it's just a matter of perspective. And we all have good and bad sides. That being said, that doesn't mean that I agree with what they are doing. What I came to believe at this moment is that we have to go way, way, way back in ancient history, and you go back to the Cosmic War. That Joseph has a couple of books about it and some others, and if you look at the old scriptures all around the world, then there comes a picture clear that there was an ancient war going on between two groups. Now, it's not completely clear if one of those two groups was a human faction or it was based on Earth. But it is clear that one of those two groups had a faction for humanity, and the other ones didn't have. Now, I believe that these two groups belong to the same group or the same family. I truly believe in what Joseph Farrell also says, that we're the descendants of a bigger cosmic family.
Right.
And maybe we have dispersed all around our solar system to other planets in the past. So maybe to Mars, maybe even to other planets. I really believe more and more that the model that there's a humanoid throughout our galaxy is much more valid than when people talk about ET or different races that look completely.
Hey.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes. We got a little interruption there, folks, and that was just when Jay was defending the powers that be. We got disconnected. Now, you were saying, and by the way, I have to say that I've had this view for years and years. Not to trumpet myself here, but I totally agree with you. I've always thought, because I've never been a big UFO guy, although I do acknowledge the importance and reality of that phenomenon. I've always wondered how come people think that we humans, we look so very different from each other. But when we depict these creatures, so-called creatures, they always look the same. Like insects. Very interesting. They look like archetypal. Yeah. So I agree, humanoids all through the solar system. The human being is in my view a template, a cosmic template. If all humans were wiped out, if we were wiped out and evolution began again, we will get back to more or less the same kind of course there are differences determined by environment, but basically it's the probably you could call it the theosophical view that manifestation comes from the inside, from a seed. We are not completely determined on our looks from environments. It's also from the DNA or the seed. So you were talking about that. Were you finished with your reasoning, or you want to continue from there?
No. I was just starting.
Okay. Go on.
So basically, one of those two factions got wiped out because of the war, or they were put back into the Stone Age. Now, the lineage of that group stayed intact throughout the world. So knowledge was being kept secret in some places. Monuments were raised to remind people of certain places and knowledge. And the future went on, daily life went on, and they got back on their feet throughout centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. And there's always been a class above us normal people. There were always people who know more, who wanted control over the rest of us. So I think that also stayed in place at certain levels. Now, fast forward. Second World War, and even before the Second World War, I think if you look at those two factions, I don't say that I 100% believe this, but I think the Jewish cabal, the people who dictate policy in the United States, who are on the top of the pyramid in Israel, who want to control the Middle East, I think that is one faction. And you can say / American intelligence / Saudi Arabia / Turkey.
Yeah, I think it's better to refer to them as Zionists. That first part, because there's many Jews who are even anti-Zionist and are not on board with this, of course. Yeah. I know you know this, but I'm just saying this for the benefit of the audience. And then there's also the fact that many Zionists aren't even Jews; they are Christian fundamentalists.
Exactly. exactly. And I don't have anything against the Jews, but I have something against a certain faction.
Yeah.
Now, I strongly believe that this is the faction that is not beneficial for us. And they even have maybe a strong linkages to that group who wiped us out in the past. They are, they're connected with the faction in the cosmic war, who was not so favorable of humanity. Now, this comes to a surprise maybe for a lot of people, and again, I don't say that that I favor them or I see them as the good guys, but I think the Nazi faction represents the other side, actually. And what I think what happened when they went on their on an URBA tours around the world, and they found all those secret scriptures all in every religion on the world, they saw that there was somebody among us that was not favorable of us. And besides the Nazi faction trying to do something about that, the Jews have been kicked out. The Zionists, they have been kicked out numerous of times in all kinds of countries. So it was not only in Germany. Leading up to the Second World War, they had problems everywhere. Because where that faction comes in your country, they take over banking, they take over corporatism, they take over the media. That's a big one for them. And they use us as a draining system to keep their financial system going. Now, I think that the Nazi faction saw this, and they actually made the decision, okay, we have to get rid of this faction. We want them out of Germany. And this is actually the arch enemy from the old days. Now, does that say that the Nazis are the good guys? No, I'm not saying that. I don't see anybody on top of that pyramid in those two factions really beneficial to us in the long term. Now, the third part of the story is that in 1947, after the Second World War, the American intelligence were so mingled with the German Nazi faction because of Project Paperclip. A lot of scientists went to the States, but it's also the financial system that really got intertwined with each other. I think in 1947, the decision was made by the intelligence community with some Nazis in that faction that there was another player on the block here on Earth. And that player was not beneficial to us. They were fooling around with our nuclear installations all around the world. They did that with the Russians, they did that with the Germans, and they did that with the Americans. And that was seen, as Joseph Farrell said, as how do you say? Yeah, there are two school of thoughts in the UFO community. One say, yeah, they did that to warn us to keep away from nuclear power. Exactly. Yeah.
To protect us.
To protect us. Now, I'm more in that other camp. I think the intelligence community saw this as an attack. I think they saw this, okay, you're showing us what you can do with your technology to keep us on the thumb.
So this faction, this third faction, is different from the Bormann Reich and the Zionists. These are not originated on Earth, in your current view.
Yes, I think they are originated on Earth. Or, there's the second possibility that they really came outside of the solar system.
Yeah, but you mean if they originated on Earth, you mean a long time ago. But they're not belonging to any of the current culture.
No. This goes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years back, or a little bit more previous, more than 10,000 years back. But so the decision was made, okay, we have to match this technology to protect Earth. So there was a plan put in place that we need unlimited funds. We need a hidden system of finance to match this technology. And we're not going to tell the general public because they will never agree that they're going to be used as a drain to get all this finance to match this technology. Now, if you see it like that they're actually trying to protect Earth because they consider that as their home base to an outside threat that is fooling around with our nuclear bases and has all kinds of technologies that is a threat to Earth because maybe sooner or later they want to take over here, then you can say, okay, this faction, the way that they want to accomplish their goals and using us as a drain, I totally disagree with that. But if the end goal is to protect Earth to an outside threat, then I'm not so black and white anymore. In who's the good guys and who's the bad guys. And what I think really happened is that this faction maneuvered themselves in a catch-22 situation, or catch-24, how do you call it? Yeah. And there was a certain point that they couldn't tell the general public anymore about this hidden system of finance. Because if they come out with, it's going to open Pandora's box. Because this hidden system of finance has their tentacles in every aspect of finance.
Yeah.
And it also means, and that's one of the big kickers why I think they're never going to say anything about this, is about the pharmaceutical tentacle. Because who doesn't know a family member or a good friend who died of cancer? And that is a big one. To come out and say, okay, we needed this money. We drain it out of the education system. We drain it out of the scientific system. We drain it out of the oil business. We drain it out of the chemical / pharmaceutical. And it goes on and on. The money comes from everywhere. Drugs is a very big one.
Yeah.
Porn is a big one. So they're never going to come out and say, okay, yes, we did this to protect Earth, but we needed the money. Because it affected us for centuries or decades.
Right.
So they caught themselves in a situation that they can't come out and tell the truth. And it goes even further. I see that's why they have to keep this system going and pumping in all those trillions of dollars to keep it going. On the one hand, they're draining that money. On the other hand, they're pumping it in to keep the system going. Because if that hidden system of finance is going to collapse, maybe that means the protection of Earth is going to collapse. Because they can't run their technology anymore. Because everything costs money, even when you have that kind of technology. So maybe they have to keep it running until they got something better in place. And that's why you see we're being prepared of going into space. All the signs are there. Big companies are heavily invested now in space. Everything will go through the satellites and your mobile phone. It's all interconnected. So that's my 2 cents of thought of what I think is going on.
Obviously, this very interesting hypothesis touches upon so much that I'll refrain from commenting too much upon it, because we the two of us could probably spend the rest of the week discussing this scenario. So instead, we will get back to these subjects you raised now with other people like Joseph Farrell, Richard Hoagland and Dolan and others.
Okay.
So we'll explore that more from the forum point of view. But it's interesting to see where you stand at this, to know how you regard it. I have one follow-up question only, although I could ask you 10 to this, and that is that if they are doing this covertly to our own best, then people who would try to reveal it on their behalf, because they can do it, right? So
no.
They would have to deal with people who get close to the truth, wouldn't they? Or would they allow us to reveal it? Because it would be worse for them if people reveal it and they have to face up to what they've done than if they did it themselves. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the problem that Richard Dolan discussed in AD after disclosure. He felt that when things are revealed, they will try to spin it to their own benefit.
Yes, I agree with that.
But wouldn't it be dangerous for you to explore this with your fellows if they really want to keep it covertly?
Again, I think I'm not that important. And the other side for me is that I think consciousness itself plays also a big role in this. And I don't see myself as somebody special or a chosen one that I'm protected. But I think there is a layer of protection going on. And that protection works best if you are not afraid and you don't go being paranoid about it. Again, I'm a normal guy. I've got a normal job. I've got a family. I just put out the information. I don't see anything wrong in that. And if they want to shut me down, then they're going to shut me down. I don't worry about it. I will worry about that when the moment is there. But until that moment, I'm just going to do my thing.
So you're going about as if you're not surveilled, for instance. You don't think about your phone calls or your mails being... they are surveilled. I mean, everyone's are surveilled.
I truly believe there are no secrets. And if they zoom in on you, if you're going to be on a list, then there are really no secrets. And you can use encrypted email or whatever. Yeah. I think they can see anything they want. And again, so what's the point of being busy with that and being paranoid? I don't think like that at all. To be honest, I don't give a shit. Let them do that. Because if you're going to think like that, then there's no place for you in this truth movement. Because you don't share the same thoughts that I have, that this needs to be done by a group of dedicated people who are willing to put their butt on a line and just do their best for their family and their fellow men. Because if nobody does this, and everybody's going to be afraid and paranoid, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So, yeah. And I want to add one more thing about what I just said. I kept it very simple in mentioning two factions. I think there are more factions. Yeah. And I also agree with Joseph Farrell that you have to see it as a mob family. And there are several mob families sitting at the table. And I truly believe, and you can see that in some aspects, that even the Russians and the Chinese and the Americans and the Israelis, you name them, at the highest level, when it comes to protecting Earth, they're working together in a secret space program. Because they see this as their home base. Now, considering what's happening here on Earth, they're all fighting with each other for control. But yeah, at some occasions, when there's a need, I think they're cooperating with each other.
Yeah, there's much science. Just the fact that even the Chinese are keeping some of their discoveries. I won't say they're keeping it secret, but they are not announcing it. Like stuff they have taken pictures of on the moon that Hoagland has shown. That why wouldn't Putin or China just come out and say, hey people, wow, look what's going on? Obviously there is some kind of concern, some kind of agenda, some kind of something that the powers on Earth are agreeing upon. There is a reason that they are not announcing it to everyone what's going on, and there's not many explanations that can be possible. One of them is that it's too heavy. There's something going on that's too heavy for us to deal with. And that's more than just strangers in a spaceship. Because today, half the population believes UFOs are spaceships with people from other planets.
Yeah.
So if people already believe that, they could have admitted it. So there's something more sinister, or not necessarily sinister, but something more sensitive going on. I agree with you. But Joseph and many others, they point to the fact that many people believe that one of the reasons they are not revealing the breakthrough energy possibilities is that this technology is so easy to abuse and convert to weapons or destructive aspects, which would really be so destructive that it's like a child playing with a nuclear rocket. So what do you think about that? If that's true, wouldn't you, the people who try to bring it forth, wouldn't they have a huge responsibility for being careful with this?
What I see happening in a new paradigm is that the intelligence community that we have right now is now basically watching all of us. with their supercomputers, with their monitoring, with their cameras. But basically, the people that should be watched over is not even 1% worldwide.
Mm.
And I think they're already this far that they know exactly which people are causing problems or can cause a problem. Now, in a new paradigm, when we have a better life, they should put that intelligence community on that less than 1%.
Mm.
And they should monitor those people very closely. I agree with that, because those are the people who are going to misuse the free energy or the breakthrough energy applications also.
Mm.
And I think they can monitor it in a way that they will get to those people before they do something really not beneficial to all of us. Because yes, I'm promoting a machine that can run your car in your house, but I think you can even make that machine that you can't blow something up with that.
Mm.
Do these technologies, can they be used as a weapon? I'm 100% convinced of it. And that's the dualistic thing again. Nobody's talking almost about breakthrough energy and what's it going to mean for us.
Mm.
But we got a display from that technology on 9/11.
Mm.
There were a couple of billion people who saw that, what it can do on the negative side. But can you imagine if you're going to use that power for something good?
Mm. Mm.
Because I truly believe the towers, I'm not talking about Building 7, I'm not talking about the Pentagon or about the plane that went down. I'm only talking about the two towers. I truly believe they were taken down by a breakthrough energy technology.
Mm. Yeah, I saw you had Judy Wood on as one of your speakers.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was surprised. For some reason, I haven't noticed your BEM thing. I've known about your space conference thing for years. In fact, we were thinking about, in 2012 I think, we were thinking about inviting up Richard Hoagland and a few others to Scandinavia to have a conference. Mm-hmm. But then we noticed the space conference and we let that go because we saw someone were already taking care of it. And it's even better to have it in Holland than to have it in Scandinavia because of you can reach more people.
Yeah,
so yeah, I've been thinking in the same directions, but I didn't know about your breakthrough energy project. That I just have recently researched, and I see that you've had many conferences already. In fact, I think you've had more energy conferences than you've had the space conferences. Or how is this? How many conferences have you had? When did you have it? And what were they about?
It's actually the other way around. We had 3 secret space program conferences. We had 2 Global BEM Breakthrough Energy conferences. This coming May 28-29 is going to be the 3rd one. Mm. And we had some minor projects. And I invited Dr. Judy Wood because I like to give a broad scope of topics on the conference. Mm. and suppression and that it can be used not as a weapon is certainly an aspect of breakthrough energy technologies. Now, back then, I thought Dr. Judy Wood was 100% correct about her theory. Again, but I changed my mind. I still support her theory, but again, also about 9/11, I've got a slightly different view on things right now, what happened that day.
Mm. But it's... I mean, you can even go back to Tesla, who is the first person in the modern time that we know pretty sure were into this. And he realized that, you know, you probably heard about the Tesla death ray, right? So even yes. he realized this could be used for destructive purposes. And it's something to it, because if that is the concern, more than some bad guys in Star Wars spaceships, if that is the concern, I can kind of understand it, why they keep it. But I agree with you. They could still, I mean, they could make certain huge generators, and they could guard it just as they do with nuclear reactors, and then they could provide energy. So it doesn't explain totally why.
No, I don't think it's the number one reason why this is being kept hidden from us. Again, I think the number one secret why we are not allowed to have breakthrough energy technologies is because they're going to give up their secret, they're going to give up their hidden system of finance, and they're going to give up the protection of Earth.
Yeah.
I think that is the number one. Now that we can use it as a weapon, it's in that basket somewhere. But again, yeah, you could say the same about nuclear. Yeah, it's just a matter of shielding that off. That kind of a big machine.
Okay, so I get you, I read you, and I agree with you. There is probably many reasons, and the finance thing is so important. I've obviously listened to Catherine Fitz speak, and I know you've had her many times on your conferences. And
yes.
To our listeners, if any of you are in touch with her or maybe connected to her own network, don't be shy about mentioning Forum Borealis to her, because we haven't managed to get her on yet or get hold of her. So, but we will not give up, because she's very important in this equation to decode this system. So we are very appreciative of her contribution to understanding the aspects here, because she has this ability to make it very clear what's going on here. So only from the economic perspective you could understand why they keep this hidden.
Yes.
Moving on then, yeah. So you say you had 3 space conferences and 2 energy conferences. You're going to have your third now. That means that from you began with the space conference in 2012, you've had 1 conference a year basically.
Yes, and if Robert Dupper, that's my partner in this, if we can do this full time, the goal is to do 4 conferences a year. One on the secret space, one on the energy stuff, one on transhumanism connecting geoengineering, and the 4th one that can be everything. That can be 9/11 or JFK or a different topic.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Because when we were thinking about this back in 2012, the first thing we were thinking of, before we were thinking of space, moon, Mars, all that stuff, we were thinking of antediluvian civilization. Because there's so much evidence for that, and there's so many brilliant researchers, even within the mainstream now, who realizes that mankind's history is much older, and that there has been advanced civilizations on Earth. And it dovetails also, because if there was an advanced civilization, if they managed to leave Earth, which we have strong indications of, if they had some kind of technology which isn't identical to the one we have now, but nonetheless, if you have energy and you're not using our energy, obviously it's related. So what do you think about that? Wouldn't that be a good subject to have conferences on?
Yeah, for sure. It's with Robert and myself, it all has to do with time and a little bit of funding. But we're so busy with our own personal life that we don't have enough time to do more conferences.
Well, you keep that in mind then. Okay. And also, we are in the process of making a series on that. So in the future, if you're still listening, I know you have thousands of hours of podcasts in your luggage, but if you're going to listen in the future, check out some of the brilliant speakers we're going to have on, like Graham Hancock and others. And we're going to have Joseph on for this antediluvian thing also.
I'm already back up to speed. I've listened to all your shows except one, so no worries about that.
Okay, cool. That's an honor. Now, so the next one is then the one we talked about in part 1, the next energy conference. So you're kind of having it every second year, right? So next year there will be space conferences again, right?
Yeah, but we're also going to be an energy conference again.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Both of them.
Both of them. But not in the same, but in 2 different.
In 2 different.
Yeah. And have you settled on having everything in America onwards?
You mean where? Or
Yeah, I mean, have you decided as just a strategy decision that from now on you'll have all conferences in America, none in Europe, let's say?
we would like to do one again in Holland, but that has all to do with money. It's much more expensive to do it in Holland, and the market is much more niche here in Europe.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when we did Space Conference back in 2012 near Amsterdam, I think if I remember it good, from 21 different countries people came.
Yeah.
To that conference, and it was sold out. There was some 280 people, if I remember, or 250. So yeah, you can do it here. That's not the problem. But then we need some budget up front because
plus you probably need more European speakers then, because it will be very expensive to get all the Americans over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we would do another energy conference, that can be easily done because there's a lot of European speakers on that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a secret space program, you have to get the Americans here because there's almost nobody in Europe. There's a couple of them, but.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If you made one on ancient civilizations, actually there would be many also in Europe.
Okay.
But I'm thinking Germany, maybe even France or England could be also venues.
If you're going to do it in those countries, because we have looked at that,
okay,
then you need translation, especially in Germany and France.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The English in those countries is not sufficient.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to another subject then. You said also that, you actually mentioned that Tesla, you felt that Elon Musk was allowed to execute his plan with the Tesla car. So why do you think they did not? Well, actually, if you look at America, there's a lot of challenges for Tesla there. He is not getting a free lunch, I'm telling you. But nonetheless, at least they have allowed it to manifest. So why do you think that? Is it because the Tesla car is really not too much of a change from the current technology? It's just an incremental step forward, or do you see something else going on?
No, I really see this as a stepping stone technology, and they're allowing it. It's the drip, drip, drip strategy that they're using.
Yeah.
So the question is Elon Musk aware of this? Is he on their team, or is he really doing his own thing?
Or Richard Branson?
The stunning thing was that there was a campaign launched a couple of months ago, and funny enough, it almost matched our name. It was called Breakthrough Energy Coalition.
Yeah, with Bill Gates, right?
Exactly.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And all the boys that we don't trust in the alternative community.
They were there?
They were there. George Soros, Bill Gates, Facebook was there, Google was there. They were all on board.
Jeez.
Except for Elon Musk.
Interesting.
Because you would expect, because he's in that kind of a ball game.
Yes.
He was not on that group, so that can be something beneficial. Well, yeah, and other people also don't trust him because he's a billionaire and he made a lot of money with PayPal, and PayPal is also considered one of those draining systems.
Yeah, we all remember what PayPal did to WikiLeaks, those bastards. So
yeah. So,
but what about Richard Branson? Was he there?
No, he was also not on that team.
Interesting.
So those were the only two big players that were not on that team.
Interesting. But you also said that some people question why you went out with your strategy about the 3 steps about the crowdfunding. Why are you open about the strategy? Because one thing is that they may not want to take out any of the people involved in your project, but it's so easy to sabotage it if they know the plan ahead. And when I say they, I mean anyone, actually. Even if I didn't have a life and I had some means, and I was crazy enough and I wanted to sink your ship, I bet I could do it if I knew your strategy well enough. So why are you open about it? Because I heard Catherine Fitz said in one of the lectures she held for you, she talked about how they are, in competition and stuff, they are actually trying to, she said, for instance, never disclose the amount you suggest for a contract on the phone or anything. So the point with this, referring to this, is just that if you want to succeed financially, there are some things that you should know the timing for when you're coming out with it. So there are points, there are arguments to be made for why you shouldn't go out with it. Now I want to hear why you disagree, why you want to go out with it, why you think that's okay.
Why you think I'm being allowed, or with my strategy that I'm so open about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes back again. I think they can know everything about us. I discussed this strategy among our teams on email, on Skype, on Facebook. So, yeah, I truly believe there's no protection against that. And again, it's the consciousness aspect that I think is going to work for us. If you're open about it, you're not afraid, you're not paranoid, and you have good intentions with it, I think then you've got a better chance of succeeding than that you're afraid that you're going to be shut down.
So yeah, but it's so easy to sabotage it if people know everything. I mean, it doesn't have to be the powers that be. So yeah. Okay. What about, I read that India is ready to go out with free energy. I read that China is researching this. I think actually there was an Indian minister or something who had a press conference. We all know about Stephen Greer, of course, and his project. Then there's Kesha. He has now allegedly released something. I know personally many people are working on that gizmo. You are not cooperating with Kesha or Greer's projects.
Absolutely not.
I don't know if you are connected to what's going on in China or India, but would you comment upon this?
I think they have something general going on in India. I think you're talking about Tiwari, if I pronounce his name correctly. And yes, he is in contact with the Indian government. It seems like they're supporting him. Now, if that comes to market, that technology, first wait and see. Because, it doesn't mean anything yet. But he is out there. It looks like that he's got something working. So I have some confidence in him. Stephen Greer, I think he did a great job with the Disclosure Project. I think he's one of the best presenters out there. He can really lay it out. He's a very intelligent guy who knows what's going on different levels. If a project goes anywhere where an energy technology is involved and he is involved, I don't think so.
Right. What about Kesha then?
Kesha is a totally different story. I think that is a scam. Or he's delusional, or he thinks he has something, but I've seen 4 presentations of him. I've met him in private. He was going to do a private demonstration for us and some technical students from Delft. And he didn't deliver what he said he was going to deliver. His book is unreadable. He makes the most outrageous claims. A lot of money is going his side from the alternative community, and nothing comes out. It's a story. Tomorrow I'm going to show something. Next week I'm going to show something. Next month I'm going to show something, and never comes out. So I don't, we don't support him in any way.
But hasn't he publicized his technology, because people are trying to build these generators?
No. I know some people who try to duplicate it, what he is proposing, and until now it doesn't work. No.
So it may be a deliberate scam to make people feel no matter the intentions, the result will be that people will be even more skeptical towards breakthrough energy after they failed with the Keshe thing. So it's a disservice.
No, I don't think he's being funded by the wrong side on deliberate. I think this comes from himself, that he thinks that he has something, or he does this to survive, to get money in his pocket, or the mad scientist, but he's not going anywhere.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. And the people you have on your team, are they the complete scientists? Does everyone know each other in their breakthrough energy research, so that you have access to all essential players, or is it a split milieu in different countries, so not everyone knows about each other, or everyone isn't cooperating?
It's not a big scene, so a lot of people know each other. Does everybody cooperate with each other? Not at all. No. No.
That's too bad. Let's hope your project will do something with that for the future then.
And this interview will help with that.
Let's hope so.
To raise consciousness about it.
Yes, let's really hope so. And I thank you so much for coming on. And people have to forgive that we are somewhat brief, and also the charming noise at your end of the, of the conversation.
Yeah, it's the little one needs my attention, so that's why I have to keep it a little bit short.
And you're in the middle of moving and everything. So good luck with all that. And we'll probably get back to you later, Jay.
Thank you very much, El. I'm more than welcome to come on your show anytime, El. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope to see some listeners in Bastrop, Texas at the 28th of May and 29th.
Cool. Yeah. From your mouth to God's ear.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes our show today. Unfortunately, we didn't get to release this in time for the energy conference, as you can tell, although we did get parts of it out to our sponsors at our website. So because of not managing that deadline, we did not give priority to get this show out very quickly. So that's why it's released to the public so late compared to when it was recorded. But now you know about it, so there's no excuse until the next conference that BEM arranges, either be that the energy topic, or the space program topic, or any other topic they may arrange something for. Go to their website and, like we always say, you will find links at our website too, although it may take some time for us to put it up. So depending on when you're listening to it, you will have access via our website too. I want to say before we part that I want to thank you, our sponsors, because when we have a program on such a controversial topic as this, it is because we are truly independent. You won't hear any of the corporate-run mainstream media outlets have focus on anything but the sanctioned reality. So it is paramount that we, the people, the grassroots, do fund each other's good, creative, game-changing projects, either small or big. And anything from webcasts to conferences. So thank you very much, sponsors, for giving us, obviously, the time to listen to the information we put forth and to support us by sharing our programs, and, of course, also to drop us a coin so that we can get close to something viable. I quoted Cohen in this show, and I want to read the full verse from his song Democracy that the citation derives from, so you get the proper quote, and it goes like this. It's coming to America first, the cradle of the best and the worst. It's here they got the range and the machinery for change, and it's here they got the spiritual thirst. Oh, he's such a great poet. Until next time, good folks, I remain your host Al, backed up by my good helpers at the team. Sincerely signing off for today. Be seeing you.
Who is number one?